Finally, we have last presenter now. The last presenter will be Marinecatchers with the title Need for International Standardization of Education and Evaluation of Maritime English. Please welcome Team Marinecatchers.
We are Team the Marinecatchers. Do you think studying English is an option? Well, maybe for you it is, but for mariners, it is a duty. So today, we are here to propose an amendment to STCW regarding English proficiency. There are 4 sections in our presentation. Shipping is one of the most globalized industries in the global economy. According to the survey done in 2009, about 80% of world merchant ship has multicultural crews. In such work environments, there is a need for a common language. Therefore, STCW Convention requires English to be used as the common language on ships. Meanwhile, the majority of seafarers actually come from non-English speaking countries. According to the BIMCO Manpower Report 2015, the top 5 labor supply countries are in the following order. And crews from these countries have reported that they have difficulties in using English on ships. Considering the fact that 24% of all marine accidents are due to miscommunication, English proficiency is a very crucial matter. When vessels are crewed with multilingual personnel who are unable to render maritime English skills, they might risk or cause damage to lives, property, and even environment. So, here are some real-life tragedies. The first one, from Scandinavian Star accident, 158 people died because crews were unable to respond to emergency situations in English. From the second accident of Royal Majesty, it was caused due to miscommunication between a ship and fishing boats. Other than that, these numerous accidents also caused due to lack of English communication skills among mariners. Therefore, it is clear that English proficiency is directly related to the safety of the ships. Furthermore, crews tend to be spatially isolated for a long time. Lack of communication in multicultural environments tends to lead to feeling lonely and finally results in poor test performance. Therefore, for the safety of the ships and better test performance, and also for the psychological well-being of the crew, reliable qualification procedures for mariners are essential. For those reasons, STCW Convention has established several provisions for evaluating English proficiency. The required English skills are separately prescribed in different chapters according to different job positions. English skills for deck officers are specified in Chapter 2, while English skills for engineer officers are stipulated in Chapter 3. However, we have found 3 major problems in the status quo. Let's talk about it. First of all, the phrases used in STCW regarding maritime English are too ambiguous. current STCW vaguely states that use of English in written and oral form should be demonstrated through examination and assessment of evidence obtained from practical instruction. And it does not provide further details. Such loose expressions can lead to poor reliability of the qualification. So, here now is my fellow colleague Changmin to talk about next two problems of current STCW. Changmin.
Yes, thank you, Jim. The second problem is that many countries have found loopholes from STCW. The above 5 methods shown in the screen are nothing more than recommendations. This means it doesn't have any force of law. Therefore, many countries avoid direct testings and do not execute oral interviews for their convenience. For instance, the Korean ship Officers Act says that the evaluation on English communication skills can be conducted through interviews. Nevertheless, third-class marine officers' exams in Korea only include multiple choices. This obviously doesn't measure the speaking or writing skills that are essential on ships. Lastly, the different Lucado skills depending on mariner's professions are either obscure or insufficiently stated. Specifically, the deck and engine department is demands for different types of knowledge, understanding, and proficiency. However, such difference isn't properly reflected in the current STCW. Knowledge, understanding, and proficiency required of engineering officers are way too broadly depicted, as well as the other columns. Although the standard for deck officers is quite specifically clarified compared to engineer officers, it still left out some important factors and therefore needs revisions as well. To solve the above 3 problems, we would like to look for the points where modification is needed according to each column. Column 1 states that competence. Column 2 specifies knowledge, understanding, and proficiency. Column 3 clarifies methods for demonstrating competence. Lastly, column 4 stipulates criteria for evaluating competence. While both chapters 2 and 3 include use of English in written and oral form, the use of IMO standard marine communication phrases is only mentioned in chapter 2, since SMCP is for deck officers. Starting with column 2, these are the reorganized duties. For deck officers in chapter 2, we suggest adding the third item to respond quickly to emergency. As seen from the precedent tragedy of Scandinavian Star, the ability to communicate in case of emergencies are as crucial as other duties. Therefore, we have concluded this item must be added. For items 4 and 5, we have classified the types of communication into 2 categories: external communication and onboard communication. On the other hand, the former version of column 2 regarding engineer officers, we only included 2 items. Therefore, we added 3 more items according to the actual work duties. Starting with number 3 to interact during onboard communication including emergencies. Number 4 to record the oral record book, engine logbook, and to write the docking indent. Lastly, number 5 to interact in external communications including various inspections, bunkering, and receiving consumables. We believe that numbers 3 to 5 should be specified as the following, since these are the 3 main cases when English skills are essential. My wonderful fellow colleague Jihae will continue on with the revision plans, columns 3 and 4. Jihae?
Yes, thank you, Changmin. So next, for column number 3, both chapters 2 and 3 presents examination and
assessment of evidence obtained from practical instructions as the methods for demonstrating competence. Now, does this seem clear enough? For the most of you, these might seem like a bunch of abstract words. Therefore, we would like to suggest refining the word examination as examination including oral test and writing test. This way, direct testing of speaking skills and writing skills can become mandatory. In particular, we have provided 3 types of test items that can be used for reference. For example, if you look at number 1 for the oral test, describing a situation presented in the form of a picture can be a good way to measure the speaking skills. And, for example, if you look at number 1 for the writing test, translating a passage presented in their native language into English can be an effective way to measure the writing skills that are essential for the mariners. Now lastly, for column number 4, criteria for evaluating competence. As you can see on the screen, the current version is way too ambiguous. In particular, in chapter 3, column 4 is exactly the same as column 3. Moreover, although it is comparatively more detailed in chapter 2 for the deck officers, certain phrases such as communications are clear and understood still seem like vague notions. Therefore, we would like to suggest amending the entire content into the following 2 sentences. First, English language publications and messages relevant to the safety of the ship are correctly interpreted or drafted. And also, communications are clear and understood for different situations indicated in column number 2. In relation to the criteria of evaluating competence, there has been continuous efforts to develop a yardstick that can measure the maritime English proficiency. Here is an example of a yardstick of ME competence, maritime English competence, for ship officers. This one on the screen is developed after the existing standards of International Civil Aviation Organization. As STCW itself cannot contain information to that extent, we urge the formation of an ad hoc committee so that they can further conduct research on finding the optimal form of a yardstick. Now, to sum up, for both the safety and the better test performance of the mariners, detailed instructions regarding English proficiency should be clarified. However, as of now, the expression regarding maritime English in the current STCW is way too broad and ambiguous. Furthermore, the English skills that are required differently according to the job positions for the deck officers and the engineer officers also lack professional details. Therefore, we suggest amending the current STCW as the following. This one on the screen is for the deck officers in chapter 2, and this here is for the engineer officers in chapter 3. As the standards for English qualification procedures go up, we expect a better quality of maritime English education. Therefore, we would like to suggest that the effective maritime English education can only happen when the instructors are comprised of both the ship officers with professional expertise and also the English majors who are educated to teach the language. The balance between the 2 types of instructors are critical, in that the balance is currently not well maintained in most societies, of course including Korea. Therefore, we hope for an improvement in the maritime English education in the near future, according to this amendment. Now,
It's working.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are confident that when this amendment is accepted, linguistically qualified ship officers will not only be capable of both better test performance and a safer trip,
but also will be able to enjoy a better quality of life on ships. This is because crews from multicultural background can finally become able to bond with personal conversations, personal interactions, when the language barrier is broken down. So, for these reasons, we urge the approval of this proposal. Thank you.
Professor Moon, the last Q&A session. Yes.
Thank you, Professor Chen. Thank you, the Marinecatchers, which is very interesting and impressive to me in particular. I have also been involved in this issue a lot before I came to Malmö, Sweden, 10 years back. Well, I'd like to open the session, question and answer for this Marinecatchers presentation. Okay, may I come to Professor Schroeder once again?
Thank you very much. Again, a very interesting presentation. Thank you also for including one of my old professors, Professor Trankner.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, I just have a few clarifications. Actually, you said that English is the language to be used on board. That's actually not true. So you can, according to the ISM code, you can choose a working language on board, and it can be different from English. It depends pretty much on what kind of nationalities you have on board the ship. So, for instance, if you only have Russian sailors, including Russian officers, it wouldn't make sense to have a working language English on board. They might probably speak Russian. Same is probably on a Chinese ship. So, but the point that you were making is actually that English should be the main language. The other question that I have is, you mentioned specifically the Royal Majesty accident, and that you say it's because of the interaction between the ship and the fishing ship that the ship finally ran aground. That's not true. That was simply because they had a problem with the GPS antenna and didn't realize that they don't have the satellite position. It's actually a classical case for integrated bridge systems and how defective they can be, that they finally ran aground and couldn't communicate with the fishing vessels. That was a very minor aspect in all of the issues. So that's just a clarification. My question specifically is, you mentioned the standard marine communication phrases. I'm not quite sure why you were actually picking up on the differences there between the deck officers and the engine officers. Are there any reasons for that?
Actually, as far as we know, we learned that the standard marine phrases are for the deck officers. So we excluded that article for the engineer officers. Does this answer your question, sir?
That's a good clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We came from World Maritime University, that's why we are very much familiar with this kind of issue. Well, I'd like to come to the floor, emergency.
Thank you for your good presentation, your emergency, and our team just want to ask a quick question. And I agree that these three problems and proposals are all important, but it's extremely hard to solve these problems and implement your proposal in reality, I think. So, what do you think is the most important proposal that should be implemented among three things?
Well, actually, I believe that we cannot pick one among the three because these can be seen as one process. So the come to is for the first step, second step, third step, and also you talked about the reality of difficulties. But if you think about it, the consequences of the accidents that happen due to miscommunication from lack of English speaking skills, the cost for the accidents are much less than actually implementing these in advance. So for those reasons, we believe that although there can be some realistic difficulties, we have to implement this current proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Say Korea.
Thank you for your presentation. I'm from Korea, and I want to ask a couple of questions. Firstly, that you talk about the oral test and then the yardstick, but if we try to concretize the oral test and the quality yardstick, don't you think that there is a higher possibility that people only try to study for passing that standard and the test, having an limited ability of having to speak English, and even if they pass that quality and the test, don't you think that in the emergency situation, because they are not native English, that their native pronunciation might prevent further communication from happening in the first place?
Could you rephrase your last sentence, please, sir?
The last question was that the native pronunciation
Yes.
might prevent their communication in English. Don't you think there's a possibility of it?
Oh, so we're not suggesting that they should learn in that particular pronunciation. We're suggesting that because it is hard for them to actually communicate in cases of emergency, we need the tighter qualification procedures, and that just because that we added a speaking test or the oral interview, that doesn't mean that the pronunciation is one of the test standards. Thank you, sir.
I think it's the correct answer. Actually, maritime communication in the name of English, right? That's what we're talking about. Am I right?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Well, actually, there are many maritime jargon, especially used in the maritime sector. That's what we call maritime jargon. Maritime jargon should be based upon in that maritime English, at least as long as you like to communicate with someone. Let's see. So, well, it's not a matter of a pronunciation. That's well, actually, that's basic, right? And communication must be clear and loud and clear. It's not the place where you'd like to show your English capability or something. No, that has nothing to do with that kind of things. Right. Okay. Thank you, Spirit.
Thank you for your wonderful presentation. It was very interesting. We are Team Angry Spirit, and I want to ask you some questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it correct that I understood in this way? Your proposal applies to vessel regardless of any standards, anything, some kind of specific standards of vessels?
You mean the kind of vessels, different kind of vessels?
Okay.
Actually, if you look at the references, we are talking about the chapter 2 and 3 and parts for the vessels more than 500 ton. Okay, so this is only limited in that particular ships.
Okay. So I understand now your proposal applies to vessel of gross tonnage 500 or more?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You mentioned the accident involving fishing vessels, and as we know, that fishing vessels are regulated under a total different regulation called STCWF Convention. So compared to merchant ships, people on board fishing vessels require, and in reality, do have like negatively low educational standards. So can you suggest how you are going to face this kind of problem?
Well, actually, the reason why we mentioned the fishing ship was just to give an example of the accidents that happened due to miscommunication, due to lack of English communication skills. So, but in fact, our honorable judge, professor, has given us the information that that was not actually caused due to the miscommunication. So we might have to modify about that content. So therefore, your question is not valid, I believe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. And I'll take one very quick
Thank you for your wonderful presentation. This is Sepis. And I just wonder about the simple explanation of the maritime test of English language. Could you explain just the MARTM?
Martel test is from England. England developed that test. It's maritime English test for mariners.
Yes, and to add a little bit more information, although there are currently no existing exams for maritime English in Korea, there has been many successful cases in other countries like Japan, China. Well, actually, China was not that successful, but Japan, England, and so on in Europe. So Marinecatchers is one of those examples that are being used in the current society, developed from England. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, this is the end of this Q&A session on this Marinecatchers presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.